All right, I'm back with Urban and Caitlin, and we're going to talk about alternative physics. But first, Caitlin has got Google.
Kind of. Google and the government again are there in discussions apparently. So Gizmodo has an article written by Mac Decoded talking about how Republicans are not happy that Google might limit searches for these uh, crisis pregnancy centers. So for people that don't know, um, there are family planning centers like Planned Parenthood that provide abortions. And in an effort to sort of spread misinformation or stop people from getting abortions, there are these fake family planning centers that look like they would provide abortions, but they don't. So they attract people looking for abortions. They're called crisis pregnancy centers. You go in there looking to, get an abortion, and they'll tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't get an abortion and why it's wrong, and they'll dress people up as doctors even though they're not doctors. I mean, it's a complete scam. And of course, Google has been, and a lot of these social media companies have been very big on limiting misinformation lately. Now, unfortunately, this is another type of obvious misinformation, and not just like accidental conspiracy theory misinformation. This is weaponized, honest to goodness, planned out misinformation campaigns designed to trick people not to get abortions. Now, I do want to say that I don't think Google should go around blocking anti-abortion websites or pro-life, websites. But this is an interesting case because it is literally misinformation. It's a misinformation campaign. And apparently the Republicans, so let me read the article, quote, in a letter spearheaded by Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares, the Republican lawmakers pushed back against earlier pleas from Democrats, claimed Google's decision to moderate its results. And it would, quote unquote, would constitute a grave assault on the principles of free speech. So basically, a bunch of these Republicans are calling the ability to spread misinformation and lies free speech, which some people might have a problem with.
But all Google is doing is making sure that it's the correct search terms that lead to these pages and not the wrong search term, right?
It can be. Now, like I said, there are certain things that Google will do to stop the spread of misinformation. This was really big during the beginning of COVID. For example, a lot of these social media companies had to stop the spread of COVID. I know, like, if you go onto YouTube, I'd love watching flat earth videos because it boggles my mind how anyone could be a flat earther, but it's really hard finding those videos because Google,
because they suppress free speech.
Right, they suppress free speech. They suppress misinformation, including misinformation from people who are legitimately just confused or just have something going on. So this does happen. Google does, and all the social media companies do refine the results, and they have all been curtailing misinformation. But when that misinformation aligns with your political party's objectives, that becomes an issue for these private companies.
Yeah. There's been the problem ever since Trump is that the right has alternative facts and just complete lies, and then they demand that should get the same respect as the truth, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is really funny is that sort of idea is a very liberal interpretation of postmodernism, which is to say that the truth is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good way to express postmodernism. And what's really funny is I remember a lot of conservatives hating on postmodernism because there's one truth, that it is this, and you can't say that truth is relative.
Usually the Bible.
Right. It's the Bible. It's the Bible. And now they're completely going not just postmodernism, but like full on in postmodernism, whereas my facts are better than your facts, and my fake truth is, my lies are just as important as your truth. And it's like, what?
Well, this is what all the never Trumper Republicans I listen to are saying. The same thing I feel. The whole Republican Party just turned 180 degrees just for Trump, to be the opposite of what it was supposed to be. And it shows that they didn't actually believe any of that or understand it anyway. They were just following a leader. Anyway,
And there's something to be said about that, actually. There is something to be said about loyalty that,
yeah.
you don't see on the left too much, but you do see that sort of moral loyalty towards, people in your party on the right, and that's respectable. But unfortunately, it does lead to some hypocrisy.
Yes, and this is something I've long heard is the difference between the parties is that Republicans mostly supported institutions and believe in them and trust them. That was the like the police and stuff. And the ones on the left are pretty much don't trust institutions in that regard. Now those two places have been reversed.
Kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, if you look at all the people that want to take up arms against the government and don't trust the government
Yeah.
and believe in all the conspiracy theories, yeah, that's
Mhm.
a lot of that's on the right wing. There are some left wing conspiracy theorists, but a lot of that, the government is evil, don't trust the government, is coming from the right.
Well, it
The
used to be,
militias,
yeah.
yeah,
It used to be the JFK assassination theories and stuff.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, but the left still has some gripes against institutions. In fact, the left is very much big into looking at institutions as, part of the problems with America. In fact, I would say one of the big issues, one of the big divides that never seems to get resolved or talked about within, left and right politics in America is that the right wing very much believes in individualism, that the problems in society are largely caused by, individual choices and individual actions, which is, true. I mean, you make bad decisions, you have bad consequences. And the left views a lot of society's ills or people's ills as part of an institutional problem, which is also true. We do have institutions that are totally racist, which totally give people unfair advantages, which, totally, favor, wealthy individuals and wealthy businesses. And that's totally true. But, we never talked about that underlying, divide. Instead, everything is kept very surface level, like, the culture war stuff, and it has no bearing whatsoever on anything, when we really could be coming together and having meaningful discussions, but we don't because, well,
I know what we really need the two parties to work together to have a healthy society, and we totally do not have that anymore.
Well, as long as the earth is flat, they can't come around.
that's true.
I don't think it works that way.
Well, no, okay. We're talking about flat earth. I love flat earth. Okay, so here's what flat earthers generally believe. They don't believe that the earth isn't round. They believe the earth is round. They just believe it's a disc.
Mhm.
And so you can totally go around the disc. And so that explains why airplanes can go to the east and come back and where it begins, because they just went in a big circle.
But can you fall off the edge?
That is a debate among flat earthers. Like these are people that deny basic, visible observations you can make outside. I mean,
Well, it could be a flat object that wraps around like the game asteroid. That would be okay.
It could be. There could be some higher level dimensionality going on. Absolutely. But oh yeah, no, flat earth. That is an amazing subject. Maybe one day we'll do some more flat earth stuff.
Well, this is good. Anyway, at least this will prevent us being punished for disinformation to have that kind of stuff in the podcast.
Yes.
So anyway, I thought this was awesome. I wondered about this for a while. These guys at Columbia University School of Engineering have taken AI machines and they have told them to invent physics. They've just played them videos of real observations of a system, like a system of two pendulums connected together. So it's got a somewhat complicated motion or something, and said, figure out how to predict the future of this, doing whatever you have to do. And we'll see if you develop F equals ma and angular momentum and stuff, or if you come up with other mathematical models to explain the physics. And they do come up with other mathematical models, and some of them they're never able to quite figure out what they're using as alternative concepts, but the predictions are good. And this is very interesting. And they say the point is, not only does this touch long science fiction fantasy, if you met an alien, would they actually have the same ideas of mathematics and physics as we do? Are those really absolute, or are they arbitrary? And the other one, which they're saying, is the things that we cannot solve in science might be because our fundamental beliefs in things like energy and mass and velocity are just not very good models, and we should have used something else. And this might be a way to find those other theories. This is the part of AI that I've always liked, machine learning part. When I finally understood machine learning, I read a good article about it, and I realized it's exactly what I always did when I was in scientific research. You measure something, you make a graph, you try fitting a curve to it, and then you have like a law. That's how it all started. PV equals nRT and stuff like that is just a observed law of how some physical thing changes. And then you develop more mathematical models based on it. And that's all these things do, is just take a bunch of data points and fit some kind of simple pattern to it. And anyway, I think this is a very exciting step forward in real practical use of artificial intelligence. And anyway, so and then Irvin has got a very strange Mexican scam.
I don't know about strange.
I haven't heard of this.
I found this interesting. So in Mexico, while we're dealing with sentient AI making math out of nothing,
Making something other than
these
mass,
folks-
inventing some new concept that's better than mass. Anyway, go ahead.
like the Earth being flat.
Yes, like that.
Yes. Apparently, out there are a ton of loan apps that are nothing more than scams and doxing mechanisms. So people try to apply for a loan through these apps from various app stores, and then the person starts getting harassed. Their face starts turning in X-rated videos and other threats to pay up. The Mexican government has no power or authority. They just put their hands up in the air and blame big tech. It just comes back down to the poor Mexican user to figure out what is a scam and what isn't, and not put their data out there for others to use.
Yeah, but all they need is your, I know, anyway, but I haven't heard of this one where they put your face on X-rated photos and then send it to your friends to embarrass you. I wonder how effective that is.
I mean, for somebody who doesn't know about these types of scams, I'm sure that's just making their heart stop.
Well, I guess it would just be until people know this is happening. I don't know. Anyway, I guess they're making money or they wouldn't be doing it.
Right. They're making money. The threats are working. The Mexican government just says they can do little.
Well, I
And-
believe that. I mean, what are you going to do?
Right. And they're just throwing the blame on companies like Facebook and Google, of course. That's their
Yeah.
fault.
Well, if you didn't use the internet, then people wouldn't be able to do this to you for whatever good that is. You could join Google's opt-out village.
Or, just go off the edge of the planet.
That's right.
There's the internet there.
I don't know. There might be just another internet over there, just as bad.
So
Maybe.
yeah, so one of the things that a lot of flat earthers believe in is the half dome, what's it called? The
The dome of the sky, right?
firmament.
Yeah.
The firmament. So if you did try to get to the edge of the circle of the flat plane of the earth, you would just hit the firmament and get a boo-boo.
Yes, that's what they believe. That's in the Bible. That's what they believe back
Mhm.
then. There's this bowl up there rotating around because that's sure what it looks like.
Yeah, and there's like a certain sect of flat earthers that are just really weird conspiracy theorists. Then you have the religious nutso flat earthers that just believe the Bible so much that like evolution's not real, flat earth is totally real, firmament's totally real. Like
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure the Bible says the world is round.
it is round.
It's not flat.
No, the Bible
That's a
says
good
that
dress.
the Bible says that the world is round, a disc is round, and it has a firmament.
I don't
And the
remember seeing
firmament-
a disc.
The firmament contains the stars, and the Bible makes very, very clear that there are four corners of the earth, which makes no sense on a globe.
And it also talks about how it makes it pretty clear in parts that God is about 300 feet up and he's a super being up that bigger than us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's demons and angels and stuff up there. It really has a whole ancient worldview, which was pretty common in ancient society. Anyway, cable. Caitlin has a missing cable.
Yeah, we're missing some cables. Indeed. So Ars Technica has an article written by Anna Gross and the Financial Times talking about fiber optic cables and their price. So here we have a chart showing the price over time of various fiber optic cables in different regions. So in Europe, China, and India. And as you can see, there's been a sharp increase. And this is a big problem, particularly for rollouts. Most backbones for things like 5G rely on fiber optic networks to carry the data. And with fiber optic cables getting more and more expensive, it means it's going to slow down the rollout of new high-speed networks. And so what's causing this rise in price? Well, it appears to be simply helium. We're running out of helium. So this has been a problem for a while. And it made me really feel weird whenever I saw helium balloons for a while, because I knew that we were like running out and this was becoming a scarce resource and people were still using it to fill balloons. And now we're starting to see the effect. So what's happening? So there's a shortage of helium, and helium is used in the production of the glass that is used within fiber optic cables. And what's really frustrating, of course, is that fiber optic, when previously was super unbelievably cheap, like much cheaper than copper. And in fact, if we were to switch all our data transfers from copper to fiber optics, maybe the copper prices would go down, but now fiber optics is getting more expensive. So why is helium getting so expensive? Well, most of the helium that we get is actually extracted from the earth in sort of like cave type systems. And then once we extract it and use it, of course, helium rises. And then once it gets out in the atmosphere, it just rises to the top of the atmosphere and stays there forever or blows away. And it never comes back. And we've kind of found all the little pockets of helium. And so now it's becoming this very rare resource. And I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have to find another way to develop this glass. I mean, maybe they can substitute hydrogen instead of helium, but we'll see.
Yeah, another similar
So
thing
you're
is
saying
there's
I
not
have
enough.
to,
Good.
so you're saying I have to start recycling my helium now on top of all my glass and my milk cartons and all that?
You can't.
You can't.
And it flies right off the earth and escapes into space. It's not heavy
Yep.
enough. And they also don't have enough tritium, which is pretty hilarious. I mean, the fusion plants are projected to come online in 10 to 20 years. And by the time they come online, we'll already be out of the fuel for them.
Right. I mean, the thing about hydrogen, though, is that can be that you can get that from water. I mean, the hydrogen is not something that we're particularly short of, but helium, though, you can't.
Yeah, but you can't get enough tritium from water. There's not enough.
No.
That's the problem. You can't get tritium. Yep.
But you can get deuterium from water.
You can, but the fusion plants need tritium. It fuses at a
Right.
lower temperature. So,
Right.
so it's a problem.
But you can
So we're
fuse
gonna
the
start reducing
deuterium.
water.
What's that?
So we're gonna start reducing water.
Reducing it? Well, yeah. But
Yeah,
Well, I
we're
mean,
gonna- more water.
Well, you use electrolysis to create hydrogen, oxygen
Yeah.
from the water, and then you do some clever tricks to separate the hydrogen from the oxygen,
Yeah.
and then you do some even more special tricks to separate the deuterium from the regular hydrogen, and then there are ways, as far as I know, and I'm not a nuclear scientist, Sammy, you would know, but there are ways to turn deuterium into tritium through nuclear processes, but
Sure. The problem is you're wasting the energy you were hoping to gain.
right, yeah.
That's the
But-
problem.
But
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we could use a fission reaction to turn deuterium into tritium, and then use tritium, to then power the stuff later down the line.
I think that is essentially how the hydrogen bomb works.
Yep.
Anyway, that'll be a good
Now
thing.
you know where I get all my physics information from, Sam.
No, it'll be a good thing to sell to Congress. We're going to build hydrogen bombs to solve our pollution problems. They'll love us
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
Anyway, there's this thing that they developed in China. It's in the South China Morning Post, I think, where they claim they've set up a laser, and the laser is pulsed with extremely short pulses and extremely high energy. So can ionize air. So you focus it and it can now draw floating characters in the air, three-dimensional holograms without any screen at all. Like the game that Luke Skywalker played the Wookiee on, where just these little monsters are floating in the air with nothing. They've got it working. It's not small enough and portable enough and cheap enough yet, but this would be an awesome display technology. Just display right in the air, three-dimensional objects just floating there. So that's pretty exciting. Hopefully it'll get that down to a price we can afford it. And Urban.
So wait, so
Yeah.
Sam, is this just creating plasma in the air?
Yeah.
And then I saw that like a decade ago, and it was interesting, but it's very much like the way I would describe it, it would be like LEDs. Like it can create essentially like little LED spots.
Yeah.
And it's loud too, because it is quickly ionizing the air, and then it is, collapses, and it essentially what's going on is you're creating little thunderstorms. Micro thunder.
They were able to make a
You
floating
had
Chinese
me at
character.
thunderstorm.
What's that?
You had me at thunderstorm. Now I'm interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The picture they have is floating Chinese characters that sort of look like they're made out of smoke.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not an impressive display where you get like, I remember in Back to the Future, they had Jaws come out of the movie poster. And even though back then it was like super high tech, yeah. But it doesn't even look that good. I mean, it really does look like LEDs, kind of looks like the object. And like I said, the other thing too is it's dangerous, which is awesome, but it's also loud. Keep
I
in
bet
mind,
you wouldn't want to stick your hand in where it's drawing. That would probably be bad.
that would be very bad.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Oh, all right. And so Urban has got T-Mobile.
T-Mobile is going to start paying out some money for that breach that happened a while ago. They, as usual, do not accept guilt. They're just settling, and everybody's getting money.
That not accepting guilt, that's the American system. I was involved in a lawsuit. I was the settlement administrator for a lawsuit from a Japanese computer manufacturer, I think Toshiba. And the lawyer told us she had a huge problem because the Japanese people said, I will admit my wrongdoing and resign in disgrace. And she said, no. In America, you have to never admit you did anything wrong. You have to say you didn't do it and pay. Because if you admit you did it wrong, there'll be more lawsuits coming after this and it will never end. You have to deny the wrongdoing and pay. That's how it works over here. And they said, that is dishonorable. We cannot do that. And there was a problem. Anyway.
Well, that's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah.
They're doing the usual of, hey, we can offer you some years of identity protection and all the usual stuff.
Does that identity protection actually do anybody any good?
I never heard that it's done anybody any good.
Yeah. But maybe they'll give you some cash though, right?
Right, like $5.
Yeah, probably. All right. And Caitlin has the rise of the machines.
Yeah, so let's look at this article. The Guardian has an article by John Henley talking about a robot that was playing chess and then grabbed and broke the finger of a 7-year-old opponent. And actually, there's a video here of it happening.
So the robot's a sore loser.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. Oh, there it goes. There it grabbed the kid screaming. The robot doesn't let go. And then, someone runs in. She tries to, break the child free. Another person runs in. And then eventually gets the child out. And this 7-year-old child is one of the best chess players in Russia. Well, at least under 9 years old. Poor kid is crying. Now, what really makes me upset about this story is one. I mean, they're sort of blaming the child. They're saying that, oh, the child disregarded safety rules, and if you ever worked with children, they're gonna. That's not the way things work. They're gonna disregard the rules. But the other thing too is that this. I'm personally offended because this robot stole my strategy I came up with a decade ago for defeating 7-year-olds at chess. It's not fair.
What's the strategy?
You break their finger.
Oh, well, but I assume what's going on is the robot thought the finger was a chess piece or something, was trying to grab it. And
Apparently.
then I ask, why in the world did they give the robot a motor that was so strong as to break a finger when all it needed was enough pressure to lift up a piece?
This was in Russia. That's all I can say.
You could limit the force of the thing and you could rubber coat it and stuff. Maybe they'll think of that now.
maybe they'll come up with like a emergency off switch too or something. I mean, the thing is too, I mean, this is totally not fair. One, they're stealing my tactics, and two, a robot against any sort of chess person is unfair to begin with. And we went over this a long time ago, that the AI chess nowadays is so good, it eclipses any grandmaster. And now there are communities of people watching these AI chess programs just play each other all day long. And they are so good that even the grandmasters can't really follow along with what the chess pieces, what the chess programs are doing. It's just like your physics, Sam, except in chess form.
Well, then they don't
So,
need to be
the
cheating by
chess-
breaking your finger too.
Yeah, they don't need to do that. But unfortunately, this robot decided to take a page from my book and expose my tactics to the entire world.
So the chess grandmasters have gone by the way of the Iceman.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no point in becoming a chess grandmaster anymore if you're trying to be the quote unquote best in the world, because you will never be as good as a computer.
Well, chess always did seem like the kind of thing a computer ought to be able to do better.
It seems like that, but it really took them decades to
Yeah.
get to this point.
Yeah. Well, I was interested in this medical article. There's been a recommendation from the medical journals, medical board, that Americans should exercise like 150 minutes a week, like 5 sessions of half an hour each, which I guess would be 5 times 30, 150 minutes would be enough. And then they tested it and found that no, in fact, twice that or even more is better. So they say they have a large cohort of people. It's a very good study. They followed them for a long time, and people live a lot longer if they exercise a lot more. They originally recommended 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate activity and 75 to 150 of vigorous physical activity. And now they say you double both of those numbers and you will live longer. Just a lot of exercise, which I must say kind of suits you. If you think when you were foragers and hunters, you would sort of work all day, run long distances, lift heavy things, dig holes, and be sort of physically active like a farmer all day long. And that is the best life.
But don't you die at like 30?
Well, yeah, they died of like 30, but it wasn't for lack of exercise. They had other problems like disease and no clean water.
Oh, I thought it was misinformation.
I don't think they had much information or disinformation.
They fell off the flat earth.
That could be true too.
There you go.
All right, and Irvin has got a brand new language.
Brand new language that I thought would catch your guys' attention, because I am such a wonderful programmer who doesn't understand anything other than assembly.
Well, you could do worse than assembly. Assembly is pretty hot stuff.
So Google came out with Carbon, for now, an experimental successor to C++, another language that I could not understand.
I wanted to link this other article. I didn't bother, but I saw an article that said C++ was a practical joke. We never intended anybody to use this, and it makes a very good case for that.
Well, they're making a thing to replace it.
Well, yeah, that's right. One of the many appalling problems with C++ is it's so complicated. It's very hard to add more features without digging into an ungodly technical debt. So these Carbon guys just decided to start all over and make an improved C++ compatible new language.
C++ is one of those languages that I really grew up. That was sort of my main language in college. I got really good at it. And then I sort of came to the conclusion that it's just a terrible language anyway, and I should just be using C instead. And I've been happier ever since.
I much prefer to use C, but that doesn't have all the features you need for real commercial software. The thing about C++ is you get high performance. That's what I say.
No, you totally have you can do anything in C, or you can do anything in C++ that you can do in C and vice versa. The thing is that in C, you're actually doing the thing and how it compiles. Whereas in C++, it's a little bit more abstracted. Like for example, classes. With classes, you have these like internal functions. You can reference self and stuff like that. But what's really going on, and you can totally just do this in C, is you have a struct right? That has, your member values, and then you pass a pointer to it to a function. And then, you have your class right there, and it's all done in C. And with C, you know exactly how it's compiling. In C++, sometimes you get some really weird stuff too. And the operator overloading is absolutely terrible in C++. I have no idea why they thought this was a good idea. To
No.
print, you literally use the bit shift operator. What were they thinking?
Yeah. There's so many pitfalls, but it's more efficient at large scale. What you're doing it all manually, you might as well be using assembler or COBOL too. You could in principle do it all there.
But C is so simple. Anything you can write in C, you can just do in the same amount of time in C++. The only thing that makes C++ slightly faster are some of the standard libraries and templates for common things like dictionaries and linked lists and stuff like that. You don't want to do that from scratch every time. C++ usually has that ready to go. C also usually has stuff outside of libc for doing that kind of stuff. But other than that, there's nothing you can do in C++ that would necessarily be faster to do in C++ than C.
Yeah. Well, I saw the best programming tweet this week. This guy said, should I use Python or R to organize my databases and do data mining? And this guy said, don't do either, just give up. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it for this one. And it being Tuesday, we'll be back on Friday and in the evening again on Friday because I'm teaching in the morning.
Okay.